Recording in progress.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We got some sound there.
Good morning.
All right, good morning. The October 18th, 2022 meeting of the Charter Authorizing Panel is called to order. I'd like to welcome everyone to the auditorium and ask that you please silence all of your electronic devices. We will have a fair and responsible hearing today, and I ask that each person that is speaking, please state your name and title for the record when you come to the podium. I'll ask that you continue to speak clearly into the microphone for the benefit of the panel, the viewing audience, and the meeting is being live streamed and recorded, so if you're at the microphone, then everyone will be able to hear you. A transcript of this meeting will be posted on the DESE website for your follow-up. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Let's get started. And we do have panel members joining us via Zoom, so we do have a quorum today. So our first item on the agenda is the minutes from our September 13th meeting.
Move approval. Second.
I have a motion from Ms. Newton and a second from Mr. Baldwin to approve the minutes as presented. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Ms. Summons, our first action agenda item, please.
Good morning, Dory Summons, the DESE Charter Office. The Rivercrest Junior High Prep Academy has submitted an application for a district conversion charter school. We have representatives from that school district, and Ms. Chantel Raper is the assistant superintendent, and she will give you her list of presenters.
Thank you. Ms. James, would you like to come and go over the procedures for everyone?
My name is Whitney James with the department. Let me back up. Each person speaking on behalf of Rivercrest will be sworn in first by the chair, and then Rivercrest will have 20 minutes to present. I don't believe that we have any opposition, so if the panel would allow that 5 minutes that Rivercrest would normally have to respond to opposition, I believe they have one. They have Representative Hodges on the Zoom as well.
Madam Chair, I'm having a little problem hearing on that particular microphone. I can hear you fine.
See if your microphone's on. Is Representative Hodges ready to present now?
I am. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well this morning. This is Arkansas State Representative Monty Hodges in Eastern Arkansas, Blytheville, and Rivercrest is actually in my district, District 55, which will soon be District 34, the first of the year. But I am delighted to speak on their behalf. Actually, my 13-year-old son attends South Mississippi County School District, Rivercrest School District, and the former superintendent, which I've worked with for years, Sally Bennett, who's retired, who also worked for the Umrell School District. She and I have worked closely together, and I've worked closely with all the schools within the District 55 on any efforts they put forth to help enhance the schools and the education of our young people. And I just want to get on to give my support of their efforts for this endeavor this morning. As I have in the past. I think Sally presented, I think I came before you guys maybe a couple years ago when Sally Bennett made a proposal. So.
Thank you, Representative Hodges. We appreciate you being with us today.
Thank you. My pleasure.
All right, at this time, everyone speaking on behalf of Rivercrest Junior High Prep, if you will stand and raise your right hand. And if you are joining us, thank you. If you're joining us on the Zoom if you will do the same. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? The print is too small for me to see the people in Wilson, but I'm assuming they all nodded yes. All right, thank you. All right. Ms. Rapert, you have 25 minutes. Do you have a slideshow? There we go. If you will give me just a minute to find 25 minutes. And your clicker's right there in front of you. If you'll speak into the microphone, make sure their light is on and
We're good. Okay, so
you're ready.
Good morning to the Charter Authorizing panel. We appreciate you being here this morning to consider our request for the Junior High Prep Academy. I'm Ms. Raper, and I serve as the Assistant Superintendent at Rivercrest School District. I'd like to introduce our team. Of course, we appreciate Representative Monty Hodges jumping in. We know he's busy. Our Superintendent, Mike Cox, is back in the office. He will be joining us via Zoom. We have our principal, Mr. Bill Barfield. He is the principal of the academies at the high school, and he's also the principal of the junior high. We have Mr. Hunter Durham. He is our band director. He boasts an impressive 612 fine arts program. He also falls with East and AP Music Theory. We have Mr. Dave DiAgostino. Mr. DiAgostino was a former career coach. He is our Solution Tree PLC leader. He is our CTE director. He is our East facilitator. He has taken on work-based learning for us. He's a business teacher. He's the lead for Work Keys. He is the lead for ACT Prep, and he has been trained through National Career Academy, and he's also a peer teacher leader. So he's a good fellow to have around as well. We also have via Zoom our teachers that were vital in writing the application. Ms. Brooke Brewer, she is a veteran teacher, alumni of Rivercrest, and she's the advocate for the SEL and the health component of the application. And then we have Miss Anna Elrod, also a vested teacher who is a peer teacher leader, and she is our Solution Tree PLC guru as well. And so I did want to introduce all of them so that you would see the vast skills that we have within our team. Let's see. So as we're going to present our vision quickly, and we do appreciate your questions at the end so we can help solidify your decision to support our mission. The approach is to embrace a whole child educational approach tailored to what we know about our students. If you know anything about Rivercrest School District, we are embedded in tradition, and we know our kids, and there's a pro and con with that tradition. That tradition is we've always done things one way, and now we have teachers wanting to think outside the box and do things a little bit different for our kiddos. Our mission was created and supported by our teachers and stakeholders and parents. It was simply because we knew that our students were struggling. And our data indicates that when we have a building change, and what we call it at Rivercrest, we have a K-6 elementary, and they call it crossing the ditch. And when they cross the ditch to 7th grade, something happens. And then when they cross over down that sidewalk to 9th grade, something happens. And that's where our data is showing those dips. We know that that has a significant impact. I was a struggling middle school student. I remember the anxiety, I remember the uncertainty, I remember the actual fear. And when we look at our aptness survey, we see that 50% of our 8th graders, 50% of our 10th graders do not feel safe at school. And that as adults, we are making sure our doors are locked. We're making sure that we have these drills. We have these vape detectors. We're looking at all those tangible pieces, but we still know that there's something going on with these middle school kiddos. I was a middle school teacher, and I had the luxury of teaching students 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade, and watching them grow. And there's just a vital piece there that we are ready to tap into. So our rationale for the junior high charter was we are a feeder for the academies of Rivercrest High School. We came out of last year, it was like building a plane in air. However, we made great strides. And the junior high teachers felt a little left out because, again, they were a 7-12, and all of a sudden there's a 9-12, and we had these little danglers of the 7th and 8th grade. And those teachers began to ask, what can we do? We want this innovation. We want to do these things for our kiddos. And so looking at this rationale of the challenges that affect most high schools, we are ready to grab hold of our 7th and 8th graders and be proactive, because when we look at our graduation rates, we see our kids, we see our students digging themselves in a hole in 9th and 10th grade. Mr. Barfield may be able to share a little bit more about some plans that he has working with graduation rates, but we want to take some of these best practices that we've put in place at the high school, move them down to the junior high. So a little bit about our district. We cover 371 square miles. Our district shares boundaries with 8 different school districts. We had 2 LEAs before the charter. It's still hard for people to realize that we now have 3 LEAs. Our 7th and 8th grade still has a high school feel to it. And we know that they're still babies. And so we're kind of having an approach in that we want to give them that elementary support that they had over there on the other side of the ditch at 6th grade, but we're wanting to provide some high school opportunities to them as well. We do have our goals, and I have updated these just a little bit to give you something that's a little bit more measurable. We feel like that we can easily increase that number of junior high students completing a foundation course by 90%. We feel like we can do 90% on that. Our academies, some of the goals that we had for the academy, we were starting at 0, and we are very close to 90% on those. And so we feel like we can do that, those high school credit courses by 90%. We are focusing on growth, individual growth goals for students. Our motto is, if we're not growing students, we need to go to the house. We need to focus on growth. Increase the percentage of junior high students scoring ready and exceeding. We can put 5% there, but again, we have this much more individualized by grade level and students. So each team now knows exactly what the growth goal is, and those students are identified. And then decrease the number of students at risk. We're using our SMART data for that. So when we look at these key programming features, and I'll go over the SEL component, Dave being the guru in career exploration, and then Mr. Durham will talk to you about innovations. But I wanted to share that we do not look at these as being individualized or silos, but rather a whole child approach. We definitely are looking at a Maslow's with Bloom's, if that makes sense, not a Maslow's before Bloom's, because we would spend all of our time on that piece, but embedding the whole process. Again, looking at our APNA survey, and this is just one survey that we have at our fingertips, but we know we're going to be doing more social, emotional, and climate surveys. But one of the other things that sticks out is that our 7th grade and 8th grade students, 13% of them said they appreciate the choices that they have. Our 10th and 12th graders say 92%. So to go from 13% to 92%, that's a big indicator. So when we look at the SEL component, we were assured and very excited to see that what we were looking at aligned very closely with the new Safety Commission's recommendations. We were almost perfectly aligned with those. Of course, anything is going to be a part of CASEL, but we already have the mental health first aid. There's 2 of us that are mental health first aid instructors. In our application, you would have seen the Guide to Life, our Thrive Arkansas. We've researched Project Aware, and then the Trauma Resource Initiative, that would be new to us, but those would all be things that we could, I like to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We can work on this, on the safety component, and still work on this SEL and this health piece. I think when we see this, as an administrator, parents want to see those tangible things, like those doors locked and those safety things, but being proactive, we know these things are there, and quite frankly, I don't know how prominent these really are in schools, and we want to be the best at this, because this is what our teachers are telling us our kids need. You know, we're not gonna lie, we want to help, we want that healthy lifestyle. We want to go back to having structured PE, structured recess time for those 7th and 8th graders. We tried something new this year where we put our PE and health on a wheel, where they have it once a week instead of on a 9-week block, to see if that made an impact. Because again, as a middle school teacher, I remember what those 7th grade boys were doing when they could not exercise and get out and move. They were gonna beat their pencils on the desk and do whatever they needed to exert that energy. So that healthy lifestyle is also a big piece that we're looking at. So for the sake of time, I'm going to turn it over to Dave, and he will talk about the CTE component. May we hand out an additional 1-page file?
Good morning. My name is David DiAgostino. I'm the teacher and CTE coordinator at Rivercrest, among all the other lovely things that Ms. Raper said about me. I'm happy to be here, and I'm glad that you guys had us here today to talk about this charter project. So, as we look at building our junior high charter and career exploration program, we want to ensure that we're aligned with all the work we've done on the high school charters to this point. And one of the main focuses of our high school charter was to create a profile of a graduate, which is on one of the sides of the handout you have there. The profile of the graduate are the skills, the essential things that our students need to be able to do and know to graduate. And those skills are being life ready. We all know, especially through the last few years, that life can throw a lot of curveballs at you. So we want them to have the skills to be able to cope and adjust and adapt. We want them to be future focused, not just what am I going to have for lunch today, but what does the next year at school look for me as far as class schedule? What is the next 2 years? What are the 5 years? What is my plan after high school? We want them to be empowered learners. One of the things I've learned through teaching East is that the more you empower students, the more they're going to surprise and amaze you with what they can do. So we want them to have the power to own their own learning. We want them to be purpose-driven. We want them to know why they're at school and what they're here to accomplish. And we want them to be engaged citizens in their community, to volunteer, to know the struggles, and to help. We're going to use the theory of action for designing middle grade CTE, which is on your slides, and we'll touch on in the next couple of slides as a guide. But the focus here is going to be through social emotional learning and career exploration to get these students there and get them these skills. So as students begin to form their identities in junior high, we want to make sure that they're focused on answering the question of what's next. So the model that we've set up for the high school charter is what's next? Can students answer that question for what classes do they need to take next, and what's their next step after high school and beyond? That question keeps us rooted and focused on what do we need to do for our students at that time to be able to help them answer that question. And we want to make sure that question is driven down through the 7th grade, so we are all working towards the same goal of what's next for our students. We want to provide them with the scaffolding and exploration time through this charter and through what we want to do through career exploration, so they can explore, find a path that works for them, or maybe doesn't work, and have the time and the ability to change course and find what's truly interesting to them. We want them to incorporate this pathway that they figure out in junior high into their identity that they're creating, so they have a purpose and a drive through high school, and their identity is tied to this pathway. And again, this is going to be done through focusing on our social and emotional learning and career exploration through resources like UScience, career information systems, and Guide for Life lessons that are out there from the state. We want to build their knowledge base around their career exploration and their career options. And we also want to and show them that their employability skills are very, very important to them through different activities with community members, job shadows, guest speakers, and so on. One of the core features of the Junior High Academy would be allowing students to take their Tier 1 CTE courses in 8th grade, along with East and Fine Arts. And these Tier 1 CTE courses would be Survey of Ag, Survey of Business, and Survey of Family and Consumer Science. These courses tie directly to our high school academies that we've created, so students would have that background knowledge to make an informed decision when they go into high school of which path they want to take through the academies. And the academies we offer are our Freshman Academy, which is focused on social and emotional learning, Agriculture, Nutrition, and Community Services, and Technology, Transportation, and Leadership. Students' abilities to take these foundational courses will allow them to make that informed decision as they go into high school, so they can have an accurate student success plan to guide their path through high school. And then, along with providing Tier 1 CTE classes, Fine Arts and East, we'll continue to build out our post-secondary and career continuum that we've built for our high school charter. This was done in partnership with our career coach, our local industry and business partners, and community members. We want to make sure that we extend this continuum down through 7th and 8th grade, so that we are all aligned with who owns what experiences and how we're going to make sure these students get the experiences they need, so they can build an informed decision and a career plan as they go into high school. We want them to be well informed and create a plan that's actionable, provides them with the self-efficacy they need, and the drive they need to be life-ready, future-focused, empowered learners, purpose-driven, and engaged citizens, and the model graduates that we want to have from the Academy at Rivercrest High School. Thank you.
My name is Hunter Durham. I'm the band director at Rivercrest and also one of the East facilitators, and I teach AP Music Theory. And what Ms. Raper mentioned earlier was that our junior high mindset in the past has sort of been throwing these kids into the fires of high school expectations. And I think we can see with our data that from 6th to 7th grade, as they, like she put it, cross the ditch, we have a very large dip in our academic achievement. We also have a large dip going from 8th to 9th grade. And in my experience, and from going to Paragould High School, the reason I woke up for school every morning was to go to band. That was my niche, that was my thing. And the statistic that she put out, 13% of our students in 7th and 8th grade are satisfied with the electives and the choices that they have in their education. And to me, that maybe I'm a glass half empty kind of guy, but that's 87% of our students that are not satisfied with the choices that are presented. So I believe that we have a critical lack of social, emotional, and learning in our school district that Ms. Raper mentioned that we want to address, and it happens at a crucial time in these junior high students' lives. I think we have an imbalance of what we require students to do versus what they would enjoy and what would motivate them to do better in school. And I think that the SEL guide that was released recently mentions growing yourself, motivating yourself, and managing yourself, as well as knowing yourself. And from my perspective and from talking with students and other teachers, I don't think we're giving our 7th and 8th grade students an opportunity to do that. So the model that we've presented you today is our absolute best to our ability to provide that for our students. I think everyone on this team and everyone on our school, every educator that I've talked to, we're all student focused. That's what's on our mind. It's not what would make our job easier. It's not what would be better for teachers. It's not what would be better for the community. It's what would be better for our students that we serve on a daily basis. Currently, our students have fairly limited choices to choose from, and that produces what I consider a lack of motivation, and I believe we see that as they cross from 6th to 7th grade and as they cross from 8th grade to 9th grade. And I think our data shows that as well. I hate talking to 7th grade students who, coming from 6th grade, they're presented with all these choices, and right now there's only 3, and we hope that there's many more, and they have to pick one at the moment. And I've talked with a lot of 10th graders and 9th graders, and they get into high school and they say, man, I really wish I would have done this. I hate that we're putting our 7th graders in that position in the first place, because I don't think any 7th grader is really prepared to pick a career path and a hobby that they will continue to do for the rest of their life, potentially. And so we have an open door band policy, and that's what I really would strive for all of our electives to be. We have students that join in 10th grade. They become all region and all state level players. Some of them have gone on to be music educators themselves. They're at ASU right now studying music education. And that's the kind of opportunities I wish we could provide our students at the very beginning when they get into junior high. And I think if we did that our data for 7th grade and our data for 9th grade would just immediately grow without really any change in our Tier 1 instruction, because students would be more motivated by the things that they wake up in the morning to go to school to do, just like I woke up to go play trumpet.
So, quick and to the point, but we are ready for questions. We can take a look at our data. We have our data here. I can go back. How much time do we have left? Oh, well, 8 minutes. When we look at our sample student schedules, and that's really what we're looking at, is taking those 7th and 8th grade options. That's where our waivers are going to come in. And providing what we call our Tier 1 career path courses as exploratory courses for our kiddos. On the infographic that you have, there's a arrow. You will see that our students will have an option for a Tier 1 class in 8th grade, an option for a Tier 1 class in 9th grade, or even an option for a Tier 1 class in 10th grade. We have a great partnership with ANC. When I got there last year, we had a fax program. We had an Agri Academy approved with our charter. I met Mr. Burfield and said, let me meet your Agri teacher. We're in an Agri community. There'd not been an Agri teacher there in 30 years. We got an Agri teacher. So we built a business program this year. Through business and industry input, we have a lot of stakeholder meetings. We had marketing set up. We threw that out the window because business and industry wanted transportation, distribution, and logistics. We are centered on Mississippi River, I-55, Burlington Northern, and we have FedEx just right up the road. So all 4 venues of transportation are right there. So we built these programs last year with Tier 1 courses, just starting from scratch. But our kiddos are looking through the windows, chomping at the bits to get into those classes, yet we are keeping them held into the required 5.8 standards. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into the CTE. We do want a waiver for keyboarding. I was a keyboarding teacher. I went through 2 rounds of writing the keyboarding standards. So it's something that's not light at all, but our K-6, and none of this is possible without our solid K-6 program that we have. I think they're going to add that as an addition for our keyboarding, but our K-6 teacher, I pulled her certifications this morning. Matter of fact, let me grab this. Let me just read what our K-6 keyboarding teacher has for certification. Middle school language arts and social studies, middle school social studies, middle school science and math, elementary, curriculum director, building administrator, 5th, 6th business tech, keyboarding, key code, computer science, and technical permit. Clearly, our K-6 children have a strong foundation in keyboarding. Then they come into 7th grade, and they have to go right back to what they learned in about 3rd grade in keyboarding. We have behavior problems there. That is a course that is keeping our students from choosing whether they can be in band, whether they can be in athletics, if they have dyslexia services or special services. That limits it even further. Mr. Durham, how many students do you start out with band in 6th grade? 45. How many do you end up with in 7th to 8th grade? 20? So we cut our program in half because of courses that we are required to teach that we're confident our students already have those skills. We want to move our career development down to 7th grade. Career development, in again, standards that I worked on through the years. That was a course that I taught. The decision-making, the self-awareness, all of those pieces, the way we really envision that is to roll that career development into a year-long course and embed a lot of the SEL through that course, because that will be the welcoming across that bridge. So as our students come from 6th grade into 7th grade, they have that career development as that overall exploratory. Then we have options to begin allowing our students to take those Tier 1 courses in 8th grade. Talking about that ANC partnership, our students have a mindset. Go ahead. Arkansas Northeastern College. Sorry about that. We have a phenomenal partnership with Arkansas Northeastern College. Our students are focused in 9th grade to get an associate's degree by 12th grade. That's the goal. They want that associate's degree by 12th grade. There was almost no parallel career path to go along with that. By allowing these students to take these Tier 1s in 8th grade, if they make the wrong decision, it's okay. They can jump into another pathway in 9th grade. If they still do not feel like they're on the right path, they can jump in 10th grade. But right now, the way that sets, once they get in a pathway, that there's not a lot of moving around because of they want those concurrent credits, they want those ANC classes, they want those extra classes, but our completer numbers were very, very low. They will not be low as we're putting in these courses. We also, just to jump over to that 9th grade, we have Keystone in place for 9th grade, just like we want that 7th grade for the kids coming into the building, career development, 8th grade. We have Keystone in place in our freshman academy for our 9th graders. So we have a welcoming course to support those students. We moved to a grade level PLC so that we are focusing on students, not content. We meet, our PLC content meets once a for grade level.
Grade level, and then once a month we do
For content. Because we are focusing on student growth and student needs, and that's the question. Do we want to talk about our content or do we want to talk about our students? Because we're all doing everything we can on the academic side to support our students, but missing that important piece that our teachers know our kids and they know that's what they need. We running short on time? Okay. So, yeah, I welcome your questions. We tried to keep this as simplistic as possible. It will be a work in progress, but I assure you we have a team of teachers, wonderful students, and wonderful parents that want to see this be a success.
Thank you, Ms. Raper. Ms. James?
Hi, my name is Whitney James with the department. At this time, we're going to go over the final legal review, and just a reminder, if I don't have any legal concerns, of course, that doesn't mean that the panel is under any obligation to approve the waiver. We encourage questions. My first legal concern was regarding Rivercrest's response to question number 19 on the final application. And that's partially our fault because the application suggests that for a district conversion charter, we have to apply for admission and there might be an enrollment cap. However, we just want to ensure that Rivercrest is not going to deny enrollment to students in the 7th and 8th grade that reside in the district. And I believe Ms. Raper understands that. Will confirm.
If you'll come to the microphone and confirm.
Yes, we confirm.
And on the first waiver for visual art or music, as Ms. Raper discussed, they do want to add the standard 1A.1.2.7 that would include keyboarding. And she did give some rationale for that. And if the panel would like to ask for additional rationale, just let us know.
Panel members? So just to confirm what I think you were saying, because I was kind of caught off guard by that, but so you're wanting to teach, are you wanting to teach keyboard in 7th grade, or you're not wanting to teach keyboard at all?
We're not wanting to teach keyboarding at all. We want a waiver for fine arts and keyboarding because we have that strong K-6 fine arts piece already in place. We have a phenomenal K-6 keyboarding program in place. And when we get to our 7th grade, go ahead.
So are you teaching, so you're not offering it at all?
We're offering it now.
But your plan is to not offer it at all?
Offer it all.
Ms. Wright McMurray?
I'm sorry. I was saying I can't hear very well whether or not it's close to the microphone. And I'll wait till her response is done, but I have a similar question about that waiver.
Can I confirm you're saying you are offering it and all 6th graders are taking it? Is that my understanding?
Yes, all K-6 students do take keyboarding.
Okay.
Through business certified solid program. I followed through. I see the progress of skills. They exceed the 7th grade keyboarding standards. So, when you look, a kindergartner is typing a word, a 1st grader is typing a sentence, a 2nd grader is working on a paragraph, and of course, our 3rd graders are typing a page if possible. So our writing scores are very solid, and the keyboarding is there.
And is that the same with the fine arts? You offer that K-6?
And we have a strong K-6 fine arts.
Okay, so let me build, that builds me to my question then, is will keyboarding be offered in grades 7 and 8 for students that maybe come new to your district and have not had that?
And that was a thought. We do feel like that we could offer that component if we needed to, but the requirement to offer it is a hindrance to students wanting to choose, because that's taking up a class period of electives. So along with the fine arts, but
I do have a question when opportunity.
Go ahead, Ms. Wright McMurray.
So just to be clear, so all students are required to take keyboard and key code as a 6th grader? Is that what you're saying?
it's a K-6 comprehensive. She has a K-6 comprehensive plan that starts kindergarten and works all the way through 6th grade to incorporate input technology, all of the skills that are within keyboarding.
Okay, and so are they following the standards that are outlined for the course?
Yes, for the input technology. She's following the input technology right now.
But outside of the technology, because you know there's other pieces in the course outside of that that are taught in the course. So are they following all of the standards that are outlined for the course?
I would have to look at those 7th grade standards and align them with her K-6 program. But again, her being a business teacher curriculum, she's developed this entire process for our K-6. I would have to cross-check those, Ms. Wright McMurray, but they are comprehensive. And as a former business teacher, I don't see any indication that our students are not prepared by 7th grade with this solid program in place, K-6.
Ms. Wright McMurray, any additional questions?
I guess at some point, if there's a way that we can, receive the feedback that yes, we are sure that this is aligning properly with what we've outlined for the course before we say that we are giving the waiver to say you don't have to offer it, to make sure there's alignment. That would be my only question.
What we can do is assure that we make that alignment and ensure, because ultimately we want those students to have all of those skills. So we can assure you that we will make that alignment and make sure all of those standards are taught in entirety. And I feel like we can do that very quickly with the skill sets that we have in place with our instructors.
I don't have any other questions on that one.
I'm sorry, Ms. Wright McMurray, say that again.
I don't have any other questions on that item right now.
Okay, thank you.
And we can also assure the panel, it would be very simple for us to provide keyboarding for students that come in. We do, as my team members pointed out, we do have an extra period there. We are very fortunate to have a plethora of CTE teachers. I think there's probably 6 of us probably that district-wide that are fully certified to do that. So we are not limited to who can jump in there with flexibility to teach that. So we can assure that.
And will you also assure that you will offer fine arts?
We absolutely will offer fine arts, but we want to offer it through band, through our program, because what's happening is our students are choosing fine arts because it's taking a class period, but they may want to be in band and not the fine arts. Now, we did work this year to play around with using band as our fine arts in 7th and 8th grade, but working on the 7th and 8th grade schedule, that's a little hard because usually those things are in a wheel, and we need those elective spots open because our 7th graders, we had someone come in from Florida with National Career Academy to work with us on our schedules to help us get those opportunities for our kiddos, and we just cannot find that time in the day to open up for the opportunities that we have available for them because of those 5-8 standards that we're requiring.
You have a question? We're going to come back to that one.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's move on, and we'll come back to that. Maybe something else is going to make it make better sense.
Yes, ma'am. The last correction on the first waiver is we'll just correct the rule names, or the rule name to DESI rules governing visual and performing arts instruction for students in grades 1 through 8. It's a small change, more cleanup than anything else. The second waiver request is teacher licensure, and I've spoken with Ms. Raper, and they do wish to add the following code sections: 617-902 and 617-919. And once we add those, I don't have any legal concerns. Does the panel have any questions regarding that waiver request?
Yes, ma'am.
Go, Ms. Saraceni.
Okay, I just want to make, as I was reading it, I just want to make sure you understand that you cannot waive special ed, period.
Absolutely.
Okay, but it didn't quite read like that. Also, your, even though you get a waiver from licensure, your core subjects, foreign language, music, and art, have to be AQT.
Absolutely.
Okay? So that was just kind of, I just wanted to make sure, because how I really read it, you really are wanting to use it more for CTE. I'm just clarifying some questions that I had.
Yes.
And technical permits are quite easy to get.
They are, and we ran into that problem this year. We lost our agri teacher suddenly. He passed away, and we were looking at options for our CTE teachers to hire agri teacher. And I emailed Ms. Kaufman and asked, would this waiver hold if we are advertising a position? So those technical permits are there. That teacher licensure would really just be in the event because we're surrounded by agribusiness, we're surrounded by agriculture degree folks that are not agri education. They're in our building all day supporting our students, and so that's really what we were looking for.
I just want clarity around, that's why you were seeking the licensure, was for CTE positions.
Yes.
And with ag, that is not a technical permit, that is a standard license, so I understand that. I just wanted to kind of walk through it and understand it and wrap my head around it. Thank you.
No, ma'am. We're working strong with licensure.
So are you saying then that your 4D1 would be for CTE only?
And, Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
and just for, I was trying to follow the conversation. So the waivers that you're requesting are for which CTE position?
Primarily agri, but we may need to look at it for business and possibly family and consumer science. If we ever expanded beyond that with a new program of study.
I'll come back.
Okay, so I'm struggling because that's not how the application reads. So the application reads, this waiver will be used mostly, if not totally, for instruction of non-core courses. Mostly, if not totally, mostly implies a wide open 4D1 waiver. So you are requesting, I just want to say it one more time on the record, you're requesting a 4D1 waiver for CTE teachers only.
Not to include core teachers. So we will not request a waiver for our core teachers.
And to dig in a little bit more, do you currently have teachers on Act 1240 waivers?
No, sir.
Okay. And there is no, and what I'm hearing then there is no need and or desire to to potentially look at Act 1240 waivers for teachers. The only waivers, once again, just to be clear, the only waivers we're looking at are CTE waivers.
Yes, sir. We do not see a need right now. We have worked diligently to make sure that our teachers are certified. Secondary math was really the only area that we struggled with, but we are only looking for those waivers for our CTE. And there's no need for them now. I know not the what ifs, but that's what we're here for. Because we hired an ag right teacher and then we had a situation 3 months later.
And just remember, we're always happy to come back and revisit when situations come up. So it's not, you're not making a life commitment here.
Right.
All right, Ms. James.
I'd like to confirm that the waiver for 4D1 is for CTE only, and I can add that to our sheet, which will then be indicated in my school info.
Yes.
Okay. And the third waiver request for class size and teaching load, and Ms. Raper and I have discussed this, and Rivercrest has decided that they do not need this waiver. I believe that they intended to use it for physical education. And so we talked that over, and they don't think that they need it.
So we are confirming that we're not requesting a waiver of teaching load?
Or class size. Yes, ma'am.
Either one. All right. Mr. Davis, would you like to start our follow-up questions?
I would, and just want to dig in a little bit more into some of the information that was provided, more for clarity on my part, because I think that there are some things that are some really good things happening that I want to get a little bit further clarity on. You mentioned the idea, or you mentioned that 14% of seniors complete with an associate's degree or a certificate of general studies. Do you know the breakdown between the two? Are most of them associate's degrees, or are most of them certificates of general studies?
Mr. Dave, you may be able to answer that. Yeah, come to the mic.
Dave D'Agostino, Rivercrest. For my time as career coach, the majority of them were Certificate of General Studies. I don't know the last couple years worth because I've transitioned to teaching now and I'm not as in tune with that process. But it has shifted more towards associate's degrees along with general studies. So I don't know the exact breakdown, but I know that the shift is being made where students are more and more going towards associates. I don't know those numbers.
That'd be interesting to sort of watch. And I think that distinction is important. So I appreciate that. Something else that was mentioned, and I just want to dig into a little bit more around the culture piece. The idea, I think you said somewhere in the range of 50% of students that were surveyed indicated that they were feeling unsafe. Is that right? Is that what I heard?
Yes, in looking at our APNA surveys, and of course, if you've ever looked at APNA surveys, sometimes they seem a little skewed, but still, we need to be cognitive that, again, that hurt my heart a little. 50% of our students do not feel safe at school. Mr. Cox and myself have spent the last year doing everything we can to ensure our buildings are locked, to ensure we have good solid crisis plans in place. Safety has almost been the #1 priority for us. Looking at that, and again going back to my middle school years, we were just nervous. And so do they really feel unsafe because they're unsafe, or do they just feel that way? And that's why that SEL piece and being able to get in there and support those, they're still babies. But yes, that is true, 50%.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's interesting considering one, the size of the district and the school, relatively small, but yeah, you're right. It could be a number of different things, just where we are and what's happening in regards to violence in schools across the country. So I just, that was just something that jumped out at me. And then the other question that I have, something you mentioned in regards to building on the success of the high school charter. But when I look at the academic innovation slide, and feel free to kind of pull that up, it appeared that there were more students, it might have been the 10th grade, it appeared that the percentage of students in need tended to increase. Is that right? I don't know if we need to pull that slide back up again.
We can. Well, I have it here. And you are absolutely right. We're looking at that, in that one, we're looking at that in need of support piece. We have our teachers looking at those goals, and we're, close is a positive. So many times we just focus on that exceeding ready. And so we're really looking at decreasing that in need of support. Now, if you look at decreasing that in need of support, we have moved more students to close. A lot of times, again, when we're just looking at our data, are exceeding and ready. The successes of the high school have been in the infrastructure, in getting these academies in place. We did not take that lightly. We had National Career Academy. We sent our teachers to training. We had them come in. We worked extensively with schedules because we were set up through Solution Tree, our PLCs, again, through content. So, the word singleton, when you have a biology teacher and a chemistry teacher and a physical science teacher meeting every week, there's only so much you can do. And we transitioned to a pure freshman academy this year, and our agendas are always focusing on students first. The very first agenda item is student success and growth. So we did not expect to see overnight growth because Mr. Cox and I inherited a new charter that, quite frankly, no one knew a lot about on day one. And we didn't have an agri teacher. We did not have a business program. We did not have our academies. We did not have a curriculum process. We did not have curriculum. We were rolling with buzz is what we were doing. And so all of that has been fast. Go ahead.
And just to add to those pieces, you had mentioned earlier kind of building the plan as we flew it, and that was true for last year, but we made a lot of strides with the work with the consultant on our schedules to make sure that we have a streamlined schedule that takes the unnecessary class out of the mix and make sure that students have focus and have some flexibility of what they can do. We also, I believe it was the 2021 school year, I know in the midst of COVID and all that went on, we had 0 industry certifications. Last year, our seniors graduated 80 to 85% with industry certifications. So there's been some huge strides there, and just getting students bought in to understand that they need these certifications and these are important for their futures. And we've started building our certification process with our NCRC down in the 11th grade, and then catching any seniors 12th grade that didn't get through that process. And then with our agri, more certifications coming there, more certifications coming. I just had a community partner out for my East program to do FAA drone training, so I have 10 students working to get their FAA drone certification right now. So just buy-in and a lot of progress towards making sure the students understand that there are benefits and values to what we're trying to communicate to them, what we're trying to teach them with these charters.
Can you speak on the success of our work keys process last year?
So for work keys last year, we decided, just like we would with ACT or Aspire or any other program, we were going to go ahead and pre-test all of our seniors and juniors last year through work keys. So we called them in like we would ACT Aspire, and we had all of them take the 3 pre-tests for work keys. Through that process, we identified the students that were ready to test in the fall window, and we tested those students. And then the ones that weren't ready to test or didn't score at least a silver level is what we indicated as ready to test for those students. We took them through the modules through our intervention time, through our CREST time, and then we're able to test them in the spring. And we had, I believe, 70 certifications come out of that, including a platinum and I believe it was 4 or 5 gold certifications, which are hard to reach on that work keys test. So we were really focused on those work skills and making sure students understand they have to have these employability skills, and all these certifications and things that we're doing with them in school are important for the future.
We have 4 career development facilitators on staff. There's 4 career development facilitators on staff, and we can just roll with what we need to do. They embedded ACT prep. We have trained several teachers. I believe we have 3 Keystone certified teachers, several career development teachers, and then most recently, our college and career readiness is across the board in 11th grade. That is our intervention, and we use ACT prep and work keys for that intervention piece for our 11th graders. And so all of those things with those academies, you're starting to see this marketing go up. And again, those 7th and 8th graders are looking at that and ready to be involved.
And then in addition with that college and career readiness, we're embedding the Guide for Life resources in there as well to focus on the social and emotional, because we know that a number of students and staff, and this is just important for the staff to hear these lessons, had social and emotional impacts through COVID that we're trying to deal with and fix and move forward from. So.
Yeah, thank you for that. And one last question from me. In the application, it talked about an assessment of a 90% growth score for students, or 90% of students meeting a growth score. Do you have a baseline data? What's the current percentage of students that are meeting them?
We did not. We really did not have an interim assessment process in place. There was some hit and miss with STAR, and so in working with teachers last year, we went ahead, we moved forward with NWEA MAP, and we have a solid baseline now, and we have solid growth goals set by individual students. No, sir, we had no baseline. We were going summative to summative.
Okay, thank you for that. No more questions from me.
Before we leave that topic on growth, so you're saying, you said that 90% of your students met their growth in NWEA, their growth?
Our goal will be for 90% of our students to meet their individualized growth goal.
Gotcha.
So what we have teachers doing now, we use our summative data. We went ahead and tested first week in NWEA. We've worked with our teachers because they've not had interim assessments for setting those growth goals, and let them figure out what they know about their kiddos. They have 4 columns, and they put those kiddos in, they put their students in a column. In December, I'll be sitting in their PLCs with them, and when we middle of year assess, and we'll decide, is that still where we're at? But I'm not crazy about the 5%. 5% of what? 5% of the 10% that we had. So we want a 0.5 student growth, but we're well beyond that 5% now in looking at individual goals for our students. But that 5% is just an overall.
My question is on what? Growth on
NWEA.
Yeah. Okay, because I'm not seeing that represented on the state summative.
No, you're not on the for our high school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, for the junior high.
We didn't. We had that in our school improvement plan. The 5%. No, it's not there. We were looking for our certified teachers. We had 27 teachers at the beginning of the year that were not on a pathway for certification. We had special ed teachers that were a bachelor degree, not in a program. We have rectified that. We went from 27 teachers not being in a program for certification to really the only hiccup we had this year was a secondary math.
Okay. Ms. Newton, do you have questions?
I don't have any questions.
Mr. Baldwin, do you have questions?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Let me step back a little bit from the details and just ask a couple of general questions. And I'm looking at the application where you talk about that the Rivercrest Junior High Prep Academy will remain the only source of instruction for students 7th through 8th grades. Therefore, the school will enroll every eligible student who seeks admission. So explain, I guess, right now you have a junior high, you have a 7th and 8th grade. Do you expect all students to enroll? I mean, explain to me the structure of the charter, and then also talk about how it's different from what you're currently doing, because it looks like it's the same building and the same teachers. And so what does the charter allow you to do that the school doesn't allow you to do?
Yes, we would, the 7th and 8th grade junior high would be the only option. The charter would be the only option, so all students would be enrolled through that pathway. Quite simply, the waivers for fine arts, keyboarding, those things would pave the way for us to allow those opportunities. We want those Tier 1 courses as those career exploratory opportunities for our students. And a little bit of flexibility there with our SEL, and to embed that, because we really want to bite that off and be one of the best in SEL and healthy lifestyles, because that's what our teachers are wanting for our students.
Okay. I appreciate that answer. I was wondering if there would be kids who would not opt for the charter and would be left in the junior high.
No, sir.
Okay, all right. And add a little bit more context to your relationship with the community college, and how do you see that expanding that, with the joint curriculum, or the ability to get certification through that? Do you do that currently, or is that something that would be new with the charter?
I can let Mr. D'Agostino do that, discuss that. One thing for sure, we appreciate our partnership with Arkansas Northeastern College. Everything that we offer is always going to be a program that Arkansas Northeastern College does not offer or complements their program. So we want to make sure that our students have opportunities in both places, and really simultaneously.
So a key part of our relationship with Arkansas Northeastern College is the career coach that we have through them, through the career coach program. They're a vital role in our career exploration activities on campus, all the way down through the junior high and then the high school. Perfect example is for my supply chain class that we're teaching this year. I wanted to get them out in the community and see different businesses and how supply chain impacts the businesses. One conversation with our career coach, and I have 3 industry tours set up for the next 3 months. So that kind of relationship is just vital to get them the exploration experiences they need. As far as classwork and courses, the career coach is instrumental again in helping our students register and sign up for any online concurrent credit courses through ANC that they offer, to get those associate's degrees, get those certificates of general study. They're the coordinator for that for our district, so they help lead that activity with the counselors to get those students through that. In addition, we have a partnership with ANC for their high school technical center, where our students can go and take welding. It is industrial maintenance, aviation mechanics, medical professions, things that we don't have at the high school that they teach for us. The benefit of having the waivers to have students be able to take these Tier 1 classes in 8th grade is that they're going to get that exploration experience then to know what classes they then might want to take through ANC as well as through the high school. So, you know, our ag-rite program doesn't offer welding, but we can get it through A and C, so that helps supplement our classes in ag-rite, because ag-rite, a big component is welding in ag-rite. We also look at if we can get them high school credit earlier and get them a high school credit class in junior high, that opens the door for those students to go and take those classes at the technical center earlier. Currently, students aren't able to really take those classes until 10th grade if they're on time for credits. Most of our students go to the technical center for welding in those programs in 11th and 12th grade. If we can get them there a year earlier and that is their passion, we could potentially get them through there with a high school, with a certificate in welding or a certificate in another program as they graduate high school.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the depth of the answer. And Madam Chair, those are my only questions.
Thank you. Ms. Wright McMurray, follow-up questions?
Yes. First, a couple of things. I want to commend you on thinking through opportunities for students to engage in CTE earlier, because we know that if we can get them engaged earlier in a program of study, they're more likely to concentrate, complete, and go into those fields. Also, appreciate you guys' consideration of including the SEL work in career development. I think that is something that I would like more to engage in and understand the importance. So my question, want to go back and just make sure that I'm fully understanding. With keyboarding key code, if students are taking that 6th grade, students move into the district, so back to Ms. Kaufman's question, 7th or 8th grade. In your answer, and I'm sorry if I didn't fully hear you, but in your answer, you said that you guys feel like you have the capacity to do that, but do you intend to have that offered to students that maybe missed that opportunity as a 6th grader?
Yes, I think we can, I know we can provide that opportunity because we do have the flexibility of so many teachers certified in that area. That is a luxury we have, so I can assure that we can pick that up. You know, it would be the same case, schools that offer oral comm in 9th grade and you have a student come in, you have to pick that back up somewhere 10th, 11th, and 12th. So yes, we can do that.
Okay, and if approved and you guys go to the model of offering keyboard key code in the 6th grade, you will ensure that the standards are aligned for that course that are outlined by the Office of Business Marketing Technology.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We can. We do have the capacity to do that. We will align that and ensure that's there. The standards are met.
Okay, great. So my next question is about career development, and we already have some schools that are offering it at the 7th grade, so that doesn't give me much pause. I just want to get a better sense. So I'm trying to make, this is going to be a course that's offered over the course of a full year and not just a semester like the traditional course, or how is that going to be done?
I think we can do that. I know we can do that. Currently, it has a filler on the second side of automation and robotics. We can pull that automation and robotics as one of those 8th grade offerings to allow those students those opportunities. What I would like to see if eSchool would allow it, and I believe we could work it that way, because when I taught, back in the day, it was CT Intro and CO, and they let us embed that, and we were kind of doing it behind the scenes. Nobody really knew we were doing it, but we didn't start in August and stop one in December and pick up the other in January. We just embedded those tech skills throughout, which led us to where we are today with career development. So to answer your question, what I would like to see is us take those SEL components and begin to embed them in the appropriate spots in career development. And again, we have the capacity within our district to do that curriculum process and work.
So your intent is for
year-long.
however, a year long, that it will make sure that if there's an embedding of the SEL work, that the standards for the career development course will still be adhered to throughout that time period.
Yes, because the same teacher, we would not have to have additional teachers to do that. To be honest, it's much what we're doing with Keystone and Oral Comm. We put Oral Comm with the Keystone teacher, and a lot of times I see those Oral Comm standards being taught in the Keystone, and I'm sure I'm going to see the Keystone standards being taught in Oral Comm second semester. It just flows.
Okay. Then my other question, so with students starting in a program of study, 8th grade, when they reach 12th grade, the offerings for that course will probably need to be higher level because they're going to reach the 3rd level by 10th grade. So what is your plan to meet those needs? And the reason why I'm asking that question is because you had shared that you had some challenges filling like your ag positions and other positions in your district. And so as we get into those upper level courses, those teachers that are required to teach those courses, do you feel like you'll have the capacity to offer that level of coursework to your students by you offering the program of study earlier in their education?
I think so. And our CTE teachers, again, we had to start with Survey of Ag last year. We're starting very early. We had to build a foundation. So we had to have a teacher with Survey of Ag. That was it, because we weren't ready for Tier 2 or Tier 3. Same with business. We had just started with Survey of Business. FACS was the only full program of study that we had in place. But we have career practicum and work-based learning, and that that started this year, but that has become a very valuable program within our district and within our community, and that's giving our 11th and 12th graders some flexibility. They're working. I mean, we have 12th graders working in steel mills right now. So we would, to answer your question, we want those Tier 1 in 8th grade. We would allow those Tier 1s in 9th grade. We could still allow a Tier 1 in 10th grade because that gives them 3 years to finish that program of study. I think we may have had 5 completers last year. That number will increase tremendously. But to answer your question, those 11th and 12th grade, they will go into career practicums and work-based learning.
So I guess my next question before Mr. Dozniak still comes to the microphone. So if we're pushing more students into the pipeline earlier, and that means we're going to have more students on the back end that are going to need to utilize the work-based learning options for that 4th year, do we feel like we have the capacity to meet those needs? Because as right now, you'll have to have the work-based learning coordinator that is supporting that work. And if it's a career practicum course, then that means that the work that they're doing is directly aligning to that program of study. So outside of the school capacity, do you feel like that your community has the capacity to support that effort as well?
Yes, ma'am. And we are currently certifying 5 of our CTE teachers in 412 for work-based learning. We certified 3, I believe, last year. And our community in Mississippi County is one of the most supportive in industry and business. They are there asking us, calling us, wanting to know, do you have any gold level CRCs? They're there recruiting our students often.
Yeah, the business community just needs employees. They need workers. They come to us all the time for who do you have? What skill sets do you have? So, we're building the work-based learning career practicum program now this year. And we'll bring in community partners as we build this program and have a list of options for what they can offer, what aligns with what students' curriculum, to make sure that we match the needs for the students, the school, and the business in that area. But everyone in our community needs jobs. We have steel mills continuing to expand. all the feeder industries that go into them, there's a need for jobs. And if we can get these students in 12th grade out in the community working while they're earning credit, it's just going to be a benefit to them as they explore their careers and the community as a whole.
And again, our students are Arkansas Northeastern College focused with that associate's degree. So really our goal is, because our students were almost picking between an associate's degree and a career pathway. What I was seeing was 17, 18-year-olds with an associate degree that had no idea what they wanted to do. And so we want to have those parallels for them.
Just one last question. So just thinking about agriculture pathway, and you mentioned that you have industry folks that are in ag that come in and out of the school quite a bit, and it sounded like those are the individuals that you're wanting to have as instructors for those courses. So what is the background of those individuals that you're wanting to place in the classroom, if that's what your plan is, to help to support those upper level classes in that program of study?
Well, right now we have a solid certified agri teacher who plans on, she came into my office and she said, I'm happier than I've ever been in my life. So I hope that's an indication that she's going to be with us for quite some time. First ever FFA in decades. We have dads pulling out their old FFA jackets to share. If you've been to, if you've been to the Delta, and I know you have, Ms. Wright McMurray, but we're in the middle of a cotton field. We're sitting on 100 acres of farmland where we are. We have the district owns, I believe, about Mr. Cox can help me, about 3,500 acres of farmland. I have little farmers and farmers' daughters all through my hallways. And their parents are excited. We're just beginning to build some partnerships, but people are ready to support our programs. But those agri education majors, I was a little nervous last year, starting an agri program and then losing an agri teacher. And I will say, let me shout out now to the agri teachers in the state, because when we lost our agri teacher, every agri teacher in that area adopted my students. And there was an agri teacher at our door every day doing a project, teaching our kids and doing, that tells you the impact that they want to have on these young students.
So an example of where we may use that waiver. So my East program is partnering with our ag program to start to learn how to do field mapping for drainage and different things. So that may evolve into unmanned aerial systems at some point. So that may be an area we would look for a waiver. So just looking for the future at those type of opportunities.
Thank you.
Mr. Zellner, do you have questions?
So I have a couple, and I think Dr. Wright McMurray, probably the answers you gave to a couple of her questions should have sufficed, but I don't have the level of knowledge that she does, so I'm going to ask them to make sure I understand. The first is with regard to the 6th grade keyboarding, the K through 6th. I heard a lot about, when you talked about that, about your teacher. What can you offer so that we can make sure that what you have in place is a program or a process and not a person? So that if you lost the current teacher you had, the students would still be served as they should.
And I have the luxury of being able to answer that question here by saying I really can't see losing that teacher. I love the fact that when we're looking at these innovative ideas, we can put a teacher in person with it and know that we have the support to build onto that. But we already have a curriculum checklist. I'm going to call it a checklist of K6 of what. So they have already done this. What I can't stand here and say is that it is absolutely aligned with those standards. but I know that we can do that, and if we do, then we'll do what all schools do. We'll just put that 5th and 6th grade course in place and ensure that those standards are taught.
Okay, and then on the 7th grade exploratory CTE, so once again, this may be clear to everyone else, but when we talk about 7th grade exploratory, is the idea that the student would choose, if you will, and be exposed to one, and if they didn't like it, because we started them earlier, then they had a chance to choose a different one? Or would the 7th grade exploratory be more an overall, these are what will be available as you matriculate on, and here are the advantages, the things, would they be exposed in that manner, or would it be the latter, that they would choose one and then basically see if they like that or change?
So that would be 8th grade. Our career development in 7th grade is already set up as exploratory in nature, in that it exposes, those standards expose the students to multiple career paths, but they're in theory. Using those interest inventories, using those pieces, we've adopted a career information system this year to be able to have a little bit more data on that. That exploratory, we want those tier 1s in 8th grade, where we can offer that high school credit and get them on the right path. But if they've chosen the wrong path, they have time to choose another path. A survey of ag is not going to be detrimental to a 8th grade student. They can still go to 9th grade and move into a survey of business, or both, because they will now have time to do both.
Okay, thank you.
Saraceni, do you have questions?
I think you've answered most of them, and I just want everyone to know I took a team to Rivercrest on licensure, so I feel pretty comfortable where they are now.
Thank you very much for your help. It was much appreciated and not forgotten.
All right, down to me. I just want to first start off by saying that was a strong needs assessment in your application. And I don't always see that, so I just really want to commend you on that. I think it was honest. I thought you used multiple sources of data, which I appreciated. And I really understand this opportunity for student choice. I love that idea. I just think about today in my job, how I reflect back to getting to take an accounting class, or, doing this work, or doing something that maybe I didn't major in that in college, but I had an experience, and at least I know who to go to talk to. So that just cannot be understated at all. But sometimes students are not used to making choice. And so sometimes when you survey and ask about choice, they may not know how to respond because they may not have been given choice in the past. So that's a learned experience that I'm excited for your students to learn. So following up on that, in your survey, as Mr. Davis mentioned, 50% of your students said they didn't feel safe. And you mentioned that part of the issue with achievement, with growth, with graduation rate is behavior and attendance. And so if 50% of your kids don't feel safe, that's a survey question. My question then is, and then what? Did you follow up with the students to ask them what that means? Did you have focus groups? Did you sit with groups of kids or individual students and say, explain to me what that means?
And to be honest, we are just now, as receiving those APNA surveys, using those in our health. We use those APNA surveys in our health and wellness plans. But looking at that data, no, we have not. But it is something that we can't ignore. So we've just began to see this data. realize the harsh reality of it. It's disheartening to know that we're focusing so much on safety, yet our children still do not feel safe. And again, I feel like that's a feeling that we need to work with them on the SEL piece. Again, this is not in silos. We're wanting to look at this whole child and nurture them in what we would consider still an elementary.
So I don't discount making your building safe, but certainly talking to the students to unpack that, because you could work yourself to death and they can still give you the same answer next year and the year following. So I do strongly encourage you to talk to the students. And this kind of goes back to that choice. It all works together, is you can't just rely on surveys to tell you what kids are thinking. You've got to really talk to them in such an awesome time when they're in middle school. They're just so unique and fun and insightful, and it's just such an opportunity. So I just strongly encourage you to take that. And I think that's what you're seeing in your data is, as you said, you know, a large group of students in need of support, close, then ready, then exceeding, but really understanding what they're struggling with is really an opportunity where kids can make really huge growth when they're having those student-teacher conversations that really identify, you know, when kids are surveyed at that age, most of them say that the teacher tells them what they've done wrong, but they don't tell them what they're strong in. And so it's really a time to change those conversations. And I think what you're planning to do with your student success plans really makes that available to you. So just a couple of quick final questions for me. You do not have a digital learning plan, so I'm assuming all of your kids are on site. And therefore, as attendance has been an issue, kind of talk about what you're doing that is going to motivate students to show up. And so I'm wondering if, when I look at the sample schedule that looks like a really interesting block, that the intent is to encourage them to come and not skip first period English every day, because English moves around during the day. So is that kind of part of that, get them to school?
The mindset, and we've worked on this at the high school. Our attendance is up at the high school. We use our SMART data, so in addition to our academic growth goals, our teachers have set attendance and behavior goals by grade level. So we are utilizing SMART data. Matter of fact, our team leaders will be trained Friday in that. We have several trained. Those little red and orange kiddos pop up on, you know, on my radar in SMART data as at risk. Usually I've already heard their names, and Mr. Burfield has certainly heard their names. We are looking at, well, we're not looking at, that's what we're doing this year. With those grade level PLCs, we even moved our classrooms around so that we were by grade level and not content, because we want teachers to come out into the hallway and be chit-chatting about our children. You know, the two math classes were side by side because, well, for them to collaborate, and we asked, well, what do you collaborate? And, you know, how did two-step equations go this morning? No, we're collaborating about our children. And so setting those attendance and behavior goals along with those growth goals is a process that is already in place and being checked.
One of the things as our district being part of the peer teacher leader program is professional development that we get towards engaging students and teaching practices, and that was what our teachers in that program did at our last our last staff meeting, was go through some engagement practices with teachers to how to engage students. And then additionally with that program comes funding to be able to provide incentives to students and or teachers when we meet these goals. So we're still working through the details of how we want to use that funding to provide the incentives that are really going to make students want to be at school and achieve those goals.
But as Mr. Durham said, he woke up every morning to go to school for band.
So I want to, sorry, I'll get in the microphone first. I want to tie some of this together because we've talked about our students not feeling safe. And I asked our 7th graders when we were doing class signups last year, I sat in a room full of all of our 7th graders and I said, raise your hand if given more than one choice out of your electives, if you would do 2. And 100% of those kids raised their hand. They want to do these career pathways and they want to have elective choices. And if you'll talk to my band kids, we talk to them about their grades, every single one of our band kids, every week. If they make a C in class, they're working on that during band class because they know that they will not go with us to our next band trip if their grades are not good. They know that if they are, especially athletics and band both, if they're in trouble, they won't play in that game on Friday. And so most of the most well-behaved, well-rounded, and high-achieving students are those that are pursuing these electives. And so by opening up these choices for more electives and more career pathways for our students, we're encouraging all of them to find a place where they belong, which gives them a sense of safety and gives them that motivation to go to school.
I think you've hit on a key of how that all fits together, but the thing I heard you say is your high-performing kids. That is, all of those components are clicking together. And what you're trying to accomplish is to make sure those at-risk kids are getting that same level of support.
Well, make no mistake, many of the kids that join band in 7th grade and 8th grade are those at-risk kids. They become high-achieving students because we give them something that motivates them.
Good. So I'm interested in, as I've listened to all of this, about who have you partnered with, who have you learned from, and how you're engaging. Because at this age, students are trying to disengage from parents. And so how are you pulling parents in?
Again, we have a strong parent base. I'm just very fortunate to be at Rivercrest School District where our parents are involved. You know, we hear our parents saying, the busier we can keep our kids, you know, the more they'll stay out of trouble. And our band, our parents, I'm not sure how many follow along, but they have an entourage that go with them. We have Agri parents until this year. There was no program for their students for them to be involved. There are the state fair, a ton of parents that are at Little Rock with the state fair. That's all on social media. So providing these opportunities for these students are providing those parallels for those parents to be involved. Our community support, we had absolutely zero negative feedback on going this direction. And Mr. Cox is a part of that, but right now our parents trust us to do the right things for these kids, and they're looking for these opportunities. Tuesday night, my husband will be grilling burgers for the Agri. I think there's a pumpkin carving. I think our Agri students will be carving pumpkins for our title the same time we are having the literacy night. So those things are they just come naturally.
Panel members, any additional questions? Ms. James, do you have any additional concerns or topics for conversation?
For me, I do not.
Panel members, I'll accept a motion unless there's more discussion.
Move to approve the application as presented.
I'll second.
I have a motion from Mr. Zellner and a second from Ms. Saraceni to approve the Rivercrest Junior High Prep Academy charter application, and this will be for 5 years. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. So the charter panel members will write into their voting sheet and read those to you in a minute. This will go to the state board for review or not review. If they choose not to review and your application is approved, then you'll need to make an LEA name change before the end of the school year. Congratulations.
I'm having some difficulty with my voting sheet, so I'll just give a verbal.
Okay, well, we'll have one of our charter office type in yours, Ms. Newton, if you want to go ahead.
I voted for approval because though there are many questions, I think that the staff did an adequate job of explaining how they're gonna move through, including with the waivers.
Thank you, Ms. Newton. Mr. Davis?
Yes, I voted for, and the reason and rationale was to allow the district to implement and align best practices learned from the approved charter for the high school.
Mr. Zellner?
I support the application as it expands the choices available to the students and is complementary in supporting the model as the students matriculate into the high school.
Dr. Wright McMurray?
Aye. I voted for, and I said with the assurances from the district that core standards for career coding, career board and kid code, and career development courses will be adhered to. I support this application. The ability to offer career exploration and career technical courses with inclusion of SEL work earlier in the education career will enhance our opportunities for success in education and training beyond the high school diploma.
Thank you. Mr. Baldwin?
Yes, I voted for the charter school application. I do believe that the new charter for 7th and 8th grade will help with the transition of students to the higher charter activities. I also believe that it will benefit the students and allow them to connect their education with their trade job opportunities.
Ms. Saraceni?
Support the approval of the Rivercrest Junior High Prep Academy for grade 7th and 8th with an enrollment cap of 250. Looking forward to seeing student success with early career exploration to become career ready.
All right. Congratulations, team. All right. Ms. Summons, action item number 2, please.
Okay, the general operating procedures have been, I'm sorry, yes ma'am. Okay, the general operating procedures have been updated and are ready for review.
Panel members, do you have any questions or concerns after having read those?
I have no questions or concerns, but I want to say thank you for walking me through the document last month and helping me understand and taking back the feedback and putting together what you did for this month's meeting.
Panel members, any other questions or comments? Then I'll accept a motion.
motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion from Ms. Saraceni and a second from Mr. Baldwin to approve the general operating procedures for the Charter Authorizing Panel. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Ms. Summons, action item 3, please.
Ideas Public Schools of Arkansas submitted a letter of surrender for the Arkansas Charter due to the starting and operating costs and a need to focus on their IDEA regions. And that letter has been, that is included in your packet.
Panel members, any comments or questions? Ms. James?
I just wanted to point out that I'm not quite sure when we decided to start calling this a voluntary revocation, but if an open enrollment charter surrenders its charter and not during the renewal process, which obviously this charter has not commenced operation, so that would not be applicable, we would call it a voluntary revocation.
Okay. Because we've never had one before,
Okay.
to my knowledge.
And also, it's my understanding, and maybe you can confirm this, that this charter has not received any state or federal funds. I don't even think they have an LEA number, correct?
No, that's correct.
Okay.
They, and I think they pretty well described in their letter their issues. Maybe someday they'll come back and reapply and we'll
Yes.
start the process over. It's just not the right time for them right now. And I appreciate that.
Yes.
Appreciate them
absolutely.
making that decision.
Yes, ma'am.
Panel members?
I move to approve the request for revocation or withdrawal.
Second.
I have a motion from Ms. Newton and a second from Dr. Wright McMurray to accept the surrender of the IDEA Public School Arkansas Charter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Any additional information before the panel today? I will just share with panel members that I've started going out to visit charters that will be coming up for renewal. So if you haven't had a chance to get that started, we'll be hearing all of those renewals in December. We will have 2 full days of renewal hearings. So it just helps to kind of set some background knowledge if you've been to visit and know what your questions were, or know what you can move off your list of questions. So we are out visiting and learning a lot of really wonderful things. And just take the opportunity to say, if you've not been to Hope Northwest Academy, they are doing the right things for kids. They are working with kids that may have been in some type of trauma, and the work that we saw going on the day we visited was profound and inspirational. So if you haven't been out to visit them, they're outside of Bentonville at the edge. Feels like the end of the earth, but I'm sure the road goes on from there. But just amazing work and amazing people. So it's really a joy to visit.
Yeah, I second that. I know them very well.
Have you shared a spreadsheet with us about going to the visits like you did last time?
Well, Dory gave you a list of all of the schools that would be up for renewal, so, and then she's coordinating when people are out traveling, so that if there are 2 or more, that we're notifying the press. All right, panel members, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion from Ms. Newton and a second from Ms. Wright McMurray to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you.